What in the uncanny valley is this? Watch carefully. She looked like a normal lady at first, and then they kind of switched the frames and you could see this looks like a mask completely. So for those that don't know, what is Uncanny Valley? Uncanny Valley is a theory and a term used to describe an eerie sensation when you see something that looks human but isn't quite there. For example, the mannequins at the stores, if they're very realistic, you'll feel very uneasy around them. Kind of the same thing with robots, they're making them very human-like and it's really creepy. But this is an instinct that evolved within us, so why is that? I guess it's instinctual to avoid things that look like us but are not us. Maybe in the past this happened with some sort of creature, or maybe our minds are too complex now and we're overthinking everything. And if you didn't feel uneasy looking at that clip, let me roll it one more time for you, just so it sinks in your head.
This disturbing chainmail haunted inboxes for years. Back in the early 2000s, countless people received a chilling message from a girl named Carmen Winstead. The message warned, if you don't share this with 15 people within 5 minutes, you will suffer the same fate I did. But who was Carmen Winstead? She was a 17-year-old girl who relocated to Indiana because of her dad's new job. Starting over wasn't easy for her. She missed her old friends and struggled to fit in until she became friends with this group of 5 girls. At first, everything seemed to be okay until Carmen learned that these girls were actually talking about her behind her back. They were saying disgusting things like Carmen was having an affair with the janitor, or that she would rub her snot on people when they weren't looking. Heartbroken and humiliated, she confronted them, but instead of stopping, those girls still mocked her. They called her names and they embarrassed her in front of the whole school. That day, Carmen decided that she was going to report them to a teacher, but she never got a chance. There was a fire drill after lunch. While the students were standing in the parking lot waiting, Carmen stood next to an open sewer. That's when the 5 girls spotted her. Laughing, they pushed her in just to embarrass her, but it wasn't just a prank. Carmen fell hard. Her body landed twisted at the bottom, her neck was broken, and her face was scraped off. When the teacher called her name, one girl giggled and said, "She's in the sewer." The teacher looked and saw Carmen's broken body, standing unnaturally still. Her face had been completely torn off. The teacher called the police. They interrogated the students, but the girls claimed that Carmen fell on her own. Therefore, the police ruled her death as an accident. But a few months later, strange posts started appearing on MySpace, claiming that her death was no accident. No one knew who wrote them. Then the girls started dying one by one. They all refused to take accountability for their disgusting actions. That's when the chainmail started to spread like crazy. It warned that if you ignored it, Carmen would come for you through a toilet, a sink, a shower drain, even in your sleep. And when she finds you, she will drag you in the drain and tear off your face to match hers. But if you obey and share her story, she might just protect you for the rest of your life.
My neighbor's dog keeps barking, so if you hear it, I'm so sorry. Also, I need to cut the bad habit of biting the skin off of my lips when I get nervous. I don't know how to stop that, okay? Anyway, this girl wrote into Relatos de la Noche because she says she keeps seeing her sister's doppelganger. Am I saying it right? I hope I am. She said that when she first noticed this, she would see her sister go to a room, and then she would see her come from a different way, and she was like, what the hell, I just saw you go in there. And it kind of escalated from there. There was one time where her mom and her and another sister were in the living room, and she got a little cold, so she was gonna go upstairs and get a sweater. When she went up the stairs, she turned on the lights from the stairs only because she was just gonna grab a sweater really quickly. Once she grabs the sweater, she comes out to the hallway, and with the light from the stairs, she can see into her sister's room, and she said that she can clearly see her laying in bed. She mentioned that she did think it was weird that her sister was asleep, but she didn't really give it that much importance and just went back down the stairs with her other sister and mom. Once she went down there, she got chills all over her body because what she saw was that same sister that was asleep in her room on the kitchen table doing her homework. She did tell her mom then and there what she had seen upstairs, but the mom confirmed that the sister had been at the table for a while now with her headphones in, really focused on her homework, so there's no way that she was up there asleep. She said that after her mom told her that, she really didn't want to read too much into it, and she tried to justify it by just telling herself that maybe since only the stairs lights were on, she thought she saw somebody on her sister's bed. But she also knew that she was kind of trying to lie to herself just so she could feel better and not have a panic about it. However, a few days passed, and this is what the mom experienced. So before I start, I just want to let you know that from the mom's room, she could see 2 of the bedroom doors, and that's for the 2 daughters, the one that's telling us the story and the one that they keep seeing the doppelganger of. And at the end of that, there's also a restroom, which she can see all of this from her room. So the mom says that it was one night where she just couldn't fall asleep and she was tossing and turning, and while she couldn't fall asleep, she saw that the daughter, the doppelganger one, she got out of her room and went into the restroom. At this point, the mom had turned the TV on because she knew she just couldn't fall asleep, and after 15 minutes, she was like, wait, I have not seen her get out of that restroom, so she kind of got a little worried. So the mom goes to the restroom expecting to see her daughter there, but the lights were off. She opens the door and there is nobody in that restroom. So out of curiosity, she's like, I never saw her go back to her room, so let me check. She opens the daughter's bedroom door, and the girl is asleep on her bed. The mom was a little freaked out because there is no explanation as to why she saw her daughter go in, never saw her come out, and then her daughter is fast asleep on her bed. So back to the sister, because she's the one that's writing in this story. She says that something else happened, and it was probably the scariest thing that happened and the last time she saw her sister's doppelganger. It was New Year's Day, and the girl that's writing in, her boyfriend invited her entire family to go spend New Year's with his family, and they did. And they didn't end up coming back home until 4 in the morning. She said that when they got home, everybody went to their bedrooms because it was really late, and well, I guess early, but they were all really tired and they were gonna go to bed. She said before she went to sleep, she went to the restroom and was washing her face, taking her makeup off, and brushing her teeth. She mentions that she didn't close the door because it's not like she was in use the toilet or shower. She was just trying to do everything quickly to go to bed. And that was when she saw her sister pass by and go down the stairs. And she didn't really think anything of it until she realized that her sister never turned the stairs light on. She said that she walked out of the restroom not really thinking about anything but except for why she didn't turn the lights on, and by the time she got to the top of the stairs, her sister was already at the last step, and she lost sight of her when she went into the living room. Once she got to the living room, even though she lost sight of her, she again thought it was weird that she hasn't turned any lights on. She mentions that since her and her sister were little, they always accompanied each other downstairs, or like they never like to go down there alone. They always keep each other's company, right? So that's what she thought in that moment. She was like, well, let me go with her because I don't know what she's doing, and you know, maybe she needs my company. She's about to go down the stairs as she hears her sister's voice behind her say, what are you looking at? What are you doing? Her real sister had just came out of the bedroom, her bedroom, asking her what the hell she had been looking at and where is she going. She said that she stayed frozen in that moment because she was just about to go down there. She saw her sister walk down those steps, and her sister had just opened her own bedroom door and said, what are you doing? I wouldn't even know what the fuck to do. She said that she wants to blame it on maybe drinking on New Year's, but like, no, because she clearly saw her pass by that door, like saw her go down the stairs and lost sight of her when she was going to the living room. So she doesn't know what to think about it, but she doesn't think it was her drinking that caused her to see that, you know? By the way, this happened in January of this year, 2024. This is something that happened recently. She says that she hasn't seen it again since, but she doesn't know what to make of it. Like, is it a spirit or is it like a true doppelganger of her sister? But it just freaks her out. I'm not gonna lie, if that was me and my sister had just come out of her bedroom, which one is the real one? At this point, I don't trust anyone, nobody. I'm gonna lock myself in my room. But also the fact that it happened this year and more things could possibly happen other than that, I would never trust my sister again. I can't. if I see her, like, is it you or is it not you? Anyway, what do you guys think about it? I'm gonna put this story here with the time that it starts. It's from Relatos de la Noche, and of course it is 1,000 times scarier in Spanish.
Have you guys heard about the slit-faced woman? One of my followers named Alice just DM'd me on Instagram this whole story about how her grandmother encountered her, and y'all just know if I see this lady, I'll definitely be the one to die. So this was my first time hearing about the slit-faced woman. So when I asked Alice to explain her backstory, this is what she told me. Long story short, the slit-faced woman was a woman that lived in a village in Japan. She was known for her beauty, and every day she would go around the village asking everyone, "Am I pretty?" Because everyone loved her, and she even knew that herself, while her husband was at war, she decided to take advantage of that and cheat on him. When the war was over, the husband drank and drank and drank to celebrate. The night he came home, he was super drunk, and his friend decided to tell him about this beautiful woman that lived in the village, obviously not knowing that this woman was his wife. Both men marched to her house, and when they got there, a man opened the door and said, "This is my house." The drunken man heard a commotion in the back and saw a woman run across the house, which prompted him to barge inside. When the drunken man stepped foot inside the house, he saw the woman was actually his wife, which clicked to him that she was cheating. Out of anger, he stabbed the man that opened the door to death. He then grabbed his wife, and while he was holding her, he held a knife up to her mouth asking, "Do you think you're pretty?" She said yes, and as she was screaming, he slit her mouth open with the knife. No one really knows what happened after that, but it's said her spirit now takes the form of a yokai, or in other terms, a demon. She walks around with a mask, and if you encounter her, she will ask you one question: "Am I pretty?" If you say yes, she will remove her mask, showing her slit face, and then proceed to kill you by slashing your face just like hers. If you say no, she'll proceed to chop you up. It was believed at first that there was no way to make it out alive if you encounter her, but somehow Alice's grandma was able to. Alice told me the story happened when her grandma was a teenager, and she remembers hearing this story all the time. Her grandma grew up in Japan, and apparently there were sightings, and people were on edge about walking out alone or at night. Alice told me her grandma was a rebel. Like, back then, she had balls of steel, and she did not let anyone tell her anything. She said because her grandma heard these stories for so long, it was time for her to put it to the test and see if it was actually real. At the time, her grandma was 16 and she was fairly popular. Her grandma remembers asking her friends if they would be willing to venture out and see if the slit-faced woman was real. When she proposed the idea, every single person backed down except for this one boy that had a crush on her, which was her only witness. Her grandma told Alice it was a Saturday night when this all went down. Both her and the boy snuck out and met at their local bridge, which was close by. She told Alice she was wearing her school uniform, a jacket, and lit a cigarette for courage. The boy came dressed in full defense gear as if he was going to war. Alice told me her grandma had no fear of this lady because it's all been alleged sightings and no real killings. All she wanted was drama and action. Her grandma told Alice that it was deep into the night when both her and the boy started to walk through the town. It was quiet, empty, and the only lights shining around them was from the street lights. Her grandma told her that this whole time on the walk, all she was thinking about was how she could have been in bed sleeping while this boy next to her was shivering with fear. Her grandma threw out her cigarette and decided to scream, "Come out, slit-faced lady." And of course, other things just to egg it on to see if this lady would actually appear. She told Alice that about 20 minutes into walking through the town and getting tired from going back and forth, as they were about to call it a night and go back home, the both of them stopped near an alleyway. This is where they saw one light shining and a person standing in the middle of the lit up area. You know, something you'd see in a literal horror movie. Her grandma said her and the boy stood at the end of the alleyway looking. She remembers crossing her arms and saying, "Who's there? Come over here so we can see you." Her grandma said after saying that, the person slowly turned around. The person was a lady with long black hair, had a white dress on, and was wearing a mask. She said after the lady revealed herself, she heard fast footsteps of the boy she was with running away. She was left alone to deal with the slit-faced woman by herself. In that moment, her grandma remembers cussing to herself because maybe she should have listened to all those stories and she wouldn't be in this mess. Grandma remembers standing still and not running away like the cowardly boy, and even told the woman to come forward. As the woman walked towards her, she had one hand free and one hand behind her, indicating that she had a weapon. As the woman came close to her, her grandma said the lady started to laugh to herself. She also looked her grandma up and down, admiring her beauty. Alice told me her grandma did in fact drop the tough act and she began shaking with fear. She was scared because she knew what was going to happen next. She was going to die. Her grandma said she smiled at the lady and gave her a bow of respect. The lady stood still and then asked, "Tell me, Am I pretty? Alice told me in that moment her grandma's heart dropped to her stomach. Her grandma remembers thinking about the stories and how even if you were to say yes or no, it would still result in death. She said she didn't want to die, so she had to think of something fast. She kept thinking and thinking. Should she run away? Should she not answer? But then something sparked in her mind. She knew there had to be a loophole that could prevent her from possibly killing, and she had the perfect idea. Her grandma raised her head up, looked the lady up and down with the mask, and said, "You're average." Her grandma said she immediately flinched because she was expecting to get stabbed. But instead, the masked lady looked confused. She started looking at herself and kept repeating over and over, "Average." Her grandma said this was her chance to run like how the boy did, and she did exactly that. She ran down the alleyway, and at one point she heard the lady screaming "average," and then it echoed and then stopped. When she turned around, the lady was gone. It was like that was the spell to stop her. Alice told me after that day, her grandma learned that if you meet the slit-faced lady, you have to give her a dismissive answer which will make her confused. This will make her think about her looks, which will give you time to run and will make her disappear again. Alice's grandma has never seen the slit-faced woman again, but now shares her story in case anyone encounters her.
If you're easily scared, don't watch this at night. Personal spooky story time, and we're gonna call this one "That Wasn't My Brother." When I was about 18 years old, I had gone out, and I had a very strict dad growing up. If you're Mexican or Hispanic, you know, my curfew was at midnight. Thankfully, my sister would cover for me, and she would hide pajamas in the restroom. That way, if I got home late, I would go straight to the restroom, I would change, and if he caught me coming home late, I was already in my pajamas, and I'd be like, "What do you mean I was in the restroom?" So this specific night, I get home past my curfew, I go straight to the restroom, I use the restroom, wash my face, brush my teeth, put on my pajamas. The way that our house is set up is a long hallway, restroom, my bedroom, my brother's bedroom. But as you're walking to the bedrooms, the living room is right here. So as I'm walking to my bedroom, the house is dark as hell. Our front door has glass and the porch light kind of gleams in. So I'm walking to my bedroom and I happen to look in the living room, right in front of our front door, I see a little boy. And he's standing there. But what's crazy is the way that he's standing in this perfect spot, the light cuts off right here. So I can see from here down, but I can't see his face. His face is literally black. Like I can't see any features. I can't see nothing. I'm not exactly sure what he's wearing, but it looks like overalls or something like that. My first instinct isn't, "Oh my God, that's a ghost." My instinct is, what the hell is my brother doing awake right now? So I stand there and I'm calling for my brother. I'm literally like, "Eric." My brother's name is Eric. So I'm whispering and I'm like, "Eric." Trying to make sure that my parents don't hear me because it's about 3 a.m. and my brother is just standing there. And I'm like, God. "Eric." Nothing. No movement. Nothing. So I'm literally standing there for what feels like forever, waiting for my brother to cut his shit out and fucking go lay down because I'm about to get my ass kicked. And he's just standing there. So now my wheels are turning and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And when I tell you this is the most I've ever been scared, like I was shook, I was shitting myself. I decide, okay, I'm gonna go to my brother's room. Turn on my flashlight. I'm looking and my brother is asleep in his room. I was so scared. I didn't even go back to my room. Like I was freaking out. I've talked about my mom's house being haunted before. What's crazy is that it's inexplainable because my dad built their house. I'd understand if it was like an older house or something like that, but it was a new house. Like I have not done any research on the land, if there used to be something there, if something happened there. I have not done any research, but I have seen and heard so many things inside that house. It is fucking haunted. It wasn't a mimic because now that I think about it, this little boy was definitely younger than my brother, and we've seen him many times. He loves to play peekaboo. We have 2 living rooms in my parents' house, and my mom was always in the smaller living room in her recliner, and a wall separates both living rooms with a half moon, and she says that she'd be there in the morning and this is the wall and she could see the little boy like peeking. And when my mom would go and look, he'd kind of like, or if this is the wall, he'd kind of like, you know? But at least it's a friendly ghost. If you guys have any spooky stories that you'd like to share with me, please send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them. And I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye!
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then, you want to take it a step further, put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not gabbing though.
Did any of you have this type of like Barbie head that you can style growing up? If you have one, or maybe your kid has one now, yeah, don't listen to this story. So this happened back in the 80s when this lady was a little girl. She was the only girl in the family. She had 2 older brothers. She mentions how her bedroom was right across from her brother's bedroom, so the doors faced each other. Her brothers did share a room while she had her own bedroom. Also, it's important to mention that the bedrooms didn't have doors. What they would do is put curtains where the door should be. I remember having a curtain on my door once, but that was only because my mom took the door. She took the door to my room. Anyway, she played with this doll head so much that every night when she would go to bed, her mom would pick up that doll head and put it on top of her dresser so that she doesn't play with it all night in bed. So there was one night when the younger brother woke everybody up in that household because he was crying uncontrollably. Obviously, the parents were worried. They ran straight to the bedroom, and when they got there, they asked him what was wrong, why is he crying? And he told them that when he was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, he saw when that Barbie head peeked into his bed. Why did I get chills? The Barbie head peeked into his bedroom from the sister's room. He described it almost as if somebody was holding that Barbie head and just inclined it this way. So I guess like literally, I can't even do the motion. I just scared myself. Anyway, he described it as if like somebody had grabbed that head and inclined it this way, so it looked like it was peeking, which obviously is impossible for that doll to do because it would have fallen. It's only like a head. As he's crying, he's like, she was staring at me almost like she knew I was awake, and she peeked into the room. And it was basically impossible for someone to have hidden behind that Barbie to incline her, because again, she was up against that dresser. Even if it was a little sister, she would have been visible from his bedroom. And to no one's surprise, the parents did not believe him. His older brother that also slept in that bedroom did not believe him either. However, with time, that older brother started to believe because some weird shit happened to him as well. So there was one night where the older brother couldn't fall asleep, and something just told him to look towards his little sister's door. He saw the same thing that his brother claimed to have seen, which is that doll head kind of, inclined looking towards the bedroom. But it wasn't just that. It was not just that. He stared back at her because he wanted to make sure, like, is somebody holding her? Is she really moving? Is it me? And when he is staring at this Barbie's head, he said that the Barbie started making faces at him. He described it as like mocking faces, that like sticking her tongue out at him and doing like silly faces. Bro, that would have scared the I wake up, I turn, I look at my Barbie. The Barbie's like, that's the only thing I could think of. What other faces could she have done? What other faces? That would have scared me. That would have been it. Now that I think of it, that bitch has no arms. You have no arms, bitch. I'm gonna fuck you up. Okay, 34-year-old Letty would have fucked her up, but like 12-year-old Letty would have been dying of a heart attack. He also mentions how her mouth would move in like weird angles, almost as if she was trying to say something to him. And by that point, the little brother had also seen those facial expressions that Barbie was making as well. And of course, the older brother went and told his parents. He wanted to tell them that the little brother was not lying. He also saw that doll moving and making facial expressions, and of course, they didn't believe them. On the contrary, they got in trouble for making these things up. They basically told them, you better not come to us and tell us that Barbie's moving again, or you'll be in big trouble. What's the punishment? I get to sleep in the room with you? Okay, bitch, punish me. What's the punishment? You're taking me to sleep in a new home? Take me right now. So the parents didn't believe them until one night where the dad stayed up by himself, and when he was walking down the hallway, he felt as if somebody was behind him. Immediately, he turns around to look, and he could have sworn that he saw something peeking from on top of a dresser. The dad could have sworn that he thought it was that doll head that he saw move. You're a liar, you're making things up, and if you bring this up again, you're gonna be in big trouble, mister. Obviously, it was that moment where it finally scared the dad, where the family decided to get rid of this doll head. So where they lived, the trash people only came on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so they had left the trash and that doll head out there, and it wasn't trash day, so it was just gonna sit out there until the trash came. So while the doll was still outside in the trash, their grandmother came for a visit, and as she was passing by the trash, she saw this like perfectly clean and new doll head on top of the trash can. She pulled it out and asked them why they were gonna throw it away, and her son, the dad, didn't want to tell her why, so he just said it was because the daughter didn't want to play with the doll anymore. So the grandmother decided that she was gonna take it to her home because she had this bedroom that she called the old doll room, and she basically had a whole collection of dolls. She cleaned that doll head up and put it inside of that room. And surprise, surprise, after she put that doll head into that bedroom, weird sounds would start coming from that room. The lady that's telling us the story, obviously that was her doll, and she said that she personally never heard any noise in her grandmother's room where that doll was, but her grandmother and her aunt did hear noises coming from there. She explains that her cousins would also say that they would hear weird sounds coming from that room. They would spend the night at the grandmother's home, and while they were sleeping, they could almost hear like plastic bumping into things in that room. However, they were already scared of that room altogether since there's like old dolls all in there, and they did not dare to go in there and figure out what that noise was. With time, the mom of the girl was like, I cannot not tell them why we got rid of that doll. So she did end up telling the grandmother and the aunt why they got rid of the doll, and obviously they were like, oh my god, so it has to be that doll that's making those noises in that room. However, the grandmother decided not to get rid of that doll. She obviously did believe in the paranormal, but she was not about to be scared of it, so she decided that she was going to keep it in her house so that no one else has to deal with this doll. By the way, the grandmother lived by herself in that house, so yeah, that lady was not scared of the doll. That doll ended up staying with her until her final days, and the grandmother passed away. So grandmother passed away and left that house to her aunt, and her aunt, first day, took all of the grandmother's collection, including that doll head, and basically got rid of everything. She says that the aunt never told anybody what she did with it. They have not seen that doll head ever since. Yeah, that is a crazy fucking story. I feel like I would die if I were to see that Barbie head just like blah, making crazy ass faces at me. But what do you guys think?
Don't watch this video at night when you're trying to go to bed, especially if you sleep alone. You've been warned. The story that was sent to me by somebody who wishes to remain anonymous has got to be the creepiest thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't know if y'all are ready for this one. I know I wasn't. If you made it this far, you probably love scary stuff as much as I do. Just remember, you asked for this. You stayed. Let's get into it. For the sake of the story, we will call this person Becky. So Becky's lived in her house for 2 years on September 1st. She's heard noises a few times during those years, but she's never experienced anything that really scared her to her core until recently. Earlier this year, her father was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. Her and her dad were extremely close, and sadly, he lost his battle on June 30th. A few months prior to his passing, he was placed on hospice. However, he was still alert and oriented. One day, Becky, her fiance, and her son were all driving to dinner when her son said, "Mom, I need to tell you something." Becky was like, "Okay, what's up?" Becky's fiance looks at her and says, "Just listen to him. He already told me this morning." Her son proceeds to tell her, "Mom, I saw Papa." Becky was like, "Yeah, son, we go see Papa every day." He said, "No, Mom, I saw Papa in our house. I saw him 3 times. One time he was standing in my doorway just looking at me. And the second time he was running by my door and went into your room. And then the third time I only saw his face and he was just peeking in the doorway at me." He then told his mom he wasn't sick Papa, he was normal Papa. He went on to tell Becky what her dad was wearing, and he described exactly what her dad's work uniform was. Becky immediately started hysterically crying, and she was like, "Oh my god, I have to call my dad." She called her dad and everything was fine. He felt fine, nothing was wrong. He was more worried about her. Fast forward to now last week, Becky was laying on the couch talking to one of her best friends. It was the middle of the night because she's a night shift worker and her friend goes into work in the middle of the night. She hangs up the phone with her best friend and it was around 3:30 in the morning. A few minutes go by and she sees this dark figure that's like 6-7 foot tall that looks like it's wearing some kind of cloak of some type go from her son's room down the hallway to her room. She was frozen in fear and texted her best friend what she saw. That evening, before going into work again, she decided to tell her fiance what she had seen. He was hesitant to do so because he doesn't really believe in a lot of things. Nonetheless, she tells him and he just stared at her. She's like, I know you don't believe me. He said, no, Becky, on Wednesday night while you were sleeping, I saw it twice. He said it was just standing on your side of the bed and just staring at me. He saw it once at 1:30 in the morning, and then he went back to sleep and saw it again when he got up to get ready for work at like 4:30 in the morning. And he said that time he blinked and it was gone. He said he didn't tell her because he didn't want to scare her, but also he just didn't think she'd believe him. Towards the end of summer, he got up in the middle of the night one night and Becky felt him get up and then get back into bed, but she felt somebody standing behind her staring at her. She said she was too scared to roll over and look. She could feel it staring at her. Fast forward to this past weekend, her son comes to her again and says, Mom, I need to tell you something. He proceeds to tell her that while he was using the bathroom a few minutes ago, he felt like somebody was watching him. He said he turned to look and there was a dark figure standing in Becky's bedroom doorway, leaning out looking at him. He said he could see what looked like stringy hair hanging down. Whatever this is, she's terrified that it took on the identity of her dad and that maybe her son has welcomed it into their home. She's looking for help, answers, anything. She needs advice. She's desperate for advice and suggestions on how to get this thing out of her house. She feels like she's tried everything. The only other weird thing that she's noticed is that all of a sudden she's being overran by spiders, but that just might be the time of the year, but it hasn't happened in years past. I can't wait to hear what y'all think about this one in the comments. As always, send me your scary stories.
I have a really scary story time. I highly suggest you put your AirPods on or headphones or whatnot. Don't be like me. Don't have this playing out in the open. The person who submitted this is so freaked out by the story that they don't want me to tag them or even mention where they're from. So we're gonna call her Lucy. And for those of you guys that are saying that if you play those paranormal games when you're young that nothing will happen, this story will change your mind. So when Lucy was about 10 years old, she was at her grandmother's house with her cousin. They were bored, so they decided to play this paranormal game called Compass. The game consists of writing the alphabet and writing yes, no, and goodbye, but instead of using the planchette, you're using a compass. The minute they started to play the game, Lucy automatically felt this heaviness in the room. It was almost like the room was just slowly shrinking. They continued on with the game and started to ask it questions, but it wasn't really saying much. Then out of nowhere, Lucy's cousin just started laughing uncontrollably. So much so that Lucy decided that was the end. Lucy's cousin asked the game if she could leave and the game responded with yes. But when Lucy asked if she could leave, the game automatically said no. From that point forward, Lucy knew that her life would never ever be the same. She continued to ask the game several times if she could leave and the game just continued to say no, no, no. It got to the point that they both got scared and Lucy's cousin took the paper, ripped it up, and just threw it away. After they threw the game, it was almost like time stood still until Lucy looked over at the window and saw a man standing there dressed in black with his eyes completely blacked out. After that, Lucy and her cousin decided to never speak of it ever again and to pretend like it never happened. But this would not be the end of this. 2 years later, Lucy and her cousin were back at her grandmother's house. The whole family was sitting around the dining room table telling stories when Lucy's aunt mentioned that 2 years ago, around the same time that Lucy and her cousin played the game, she had a horrifying experience. She begins to tell them that one night while she was sleeping, she felt like someone was tickling her feet. She decided to ignore it until something pulled her sheets off of her and under the bed. At which point she woke up, looked, and saw a man standing there dressed in black with completely blacked out eyes. After hearing this, Lucy and her cousin decided to break their silence and come clean with what they had done 2 years prior. They were immediately scolded by their family for even playing that game and welcoming this thing into the house. Lucy also came forward and said that from the day they played that game, there has not been a night that she has not suffered from sleep paralysis and woken up to a man standing there watching her with the blackout eyes. I'm gonna have to do a part 2.
Oh yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
I'm about to show you one of the most terrifying photographs you've ever. So if you're easily frightened, do not watch this. A friend of mine lives in Chicago, and she and her husband thought that they had a family of raccoons living in their attic because they kept hearing all of these sounds upstairs above their bedroom. So they continued calling their landlord, kept reporting it, kept saying, hey, we've got an infestation of rodents or raccoons or something in our attic, and you guys need to come and get it taken care of. The landlord kept putting them off and kept saying, we're really busy. We can't get there. So the sounds would come and go. Sometimes it would be quiet up there. Sometimes it would be really loud. One day my friend is home alone. Her husband's out of town. And the sounds are particularly bad. Worse than they've ever been before. And she's sitting there and she's like, what is going on? Like, what could there must be a million raccoons up in my attic. And so she decides to pull the access stairs down from the ceiling, and she's too frightened to go all the way up into the attic because the light that's up there is a cord light and it's a little ways, so she doesn't want to go into the attic, thinking it might be unsafe. So she just crawls up 4 or 5 stairs and just sticks her arm up into the attic and just snaps a photograph. She pulls her phone down to see what's actually living there. Warning. This is what is on her phone screen, staring back at her. He was 7 feet away from her when she took this picture. And mind you, she was home alone. So, yeah. She called the police. She reported it. The police came. They found him. They also found a bunch of, you can't really see it, but right here, there's like a pile of her husband's clothes. He had been going into their house while they were out and taking things, personal effects, articles of clothing, toiletry items. So he had been there for a while. I'd pass away.
So I told this story already once on my TikTok, but I think people thought that it was fake because of the way I conveyed it. So I'm going to tell it again in a way that I think people are actually going to take it in for what it is, okay? Because this is a real true story. And it's why you should never make friends at a bar or make friends and fully put your trust in them. Okay, this was my moment of realization that you cannot trust other women just because they're women. Not everybody is a girl's girl. And this is what solidified that for me. So one night I went to this bar by myself because I didn't want to go home. I was in a really abusive relationship with my ex, baby, father, so whatever. I didn't want to go home to get belittled, beaten, and whatever, so I decided to go to the bar by myself. Now, I would have gone with some friends, but I had moved away from my hometown for this motherfucker, so I had no friends, and so I decided that I was just going to go by myself, clear my head, get a couple drinks, and then I would go home. Hopefully he'd be sleeping by then. So I order myself a Paloma. Those are so good. Don't sleep on those. It makes me feel like a rich bitch when I order one of those. Hey, can I please get a Paloma? And they look at me like, you know what the fuck that is? Anyways, yeah, so I order a Paloma. And I'm sitting there, I'm drinking it, I'm minding my fucking business. I'm literally not conversing with anybody because I am depressed. I'm thinking about what's going to happen to me when I go home. When in comes this girl who introduces herself to me as Maggie. And I'm using her real name because I don't even think that was her real name. I think she just gave me a random name, which in hindsight, I should have done the same. So then she asks me what I'm drinking. I tell her what it is, and she orders 2 more and pushes one over to me and, gets one for herself. And then we just have normal bar small talk. At the time, I thought that she was going to be one of my friends, I thought she was a safe person. I thought she was cool to hang out with, and that it would be a good, little dynamic to get me away from this abuse. Come to find out, I was wrong about that. Fast forward, the bar's closing and I'm drunk and I still don't want to go home because at that point, I know that guy is still awake. I know that I'm going to go home and he's going to be like, you cheated on me, and then pop, 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 pop. So couldn't do that. Didn't want to do that. And I had nowhere else to go because like I said, this was a new area for me. I moved away from my friend's family and everything to live in this guy's house with him. So whatever, Maggie could tell that I didn't want to go home. So she invited me to go to what she was going to after she left the bar, which was she was going to go to a bonfire at her friend Josh's house. Again, using the real name because I don't think these are their real names. So stupidly, I was like, yes, I will go with you because I don't want to go home. The car ride was fine, okay? The car ride was great. I remember jamming. We would have all the windows down. Honestly, I felt like I was riding in the car with my best friend. It was those type of vibes. It was vibes. So then she starts driving down this like dirt road, which isn't, I'm thinking like, okay, this person probably lives on a dirt road. Like we literally live out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm assuming that she knows where she's going. Okay, everything's fine. Then instead of pulling into like some kind of neighborhood or even like a driveway or anything like that, she pulls into a clearing, turns the car off, and then literally just turns to me. Like she just turns to face me and she just stares at me. And I'm like, can I help you? Like, so at that point, I just assume that something's wrong with the car. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? Is everything okay? And so calmly, this girl looks at me and she goes, get out of the car. I'm sorry. What? What? To get out of this car? You want me to get out of my seat? And at first I was like, dude, I'm not going outside. It's dark outside. I'm scared of the fucking dark. Hell no. She wasn't having it. She just wanted me to get out of the car. She pulled out this little tiny, like little small pocket knife, like something that like wouldn't even defend off a freaking cat, you know? So I don't really know why I was so scared. I don't want to be stabbed by anything, you know? So I got out of the car and then she gets out on her side, comes around to my side, stares at me for another like maybe 5 seconds, I don't know. And then she says, I'm gonna give you a 20-second head start, okay? Like literally like, okay, okay? Girl, what do you mean? I couldn't even believe what I was hearing. What? You have got to be fucking joking with me. You have got to be fucking joking with me right now. This is not happening. So I stand there for another like couple seconds, not really believing what she's saying to me. And then she literally is like, I'm giving you 20 seconds. She said it one more time. She said, I'm giving you 20 seconds. You should probably take the 20 seconds. What? So I start sprinting through these dark ass woods with my boots on. I'm drunk. I'm disoriented. I don't know where I am. I've never been in these woods before. I've never been on this road before. As I'm running, I can hear her running behind me. And she did give me 20 seconds. It was probably like more like 10 seconds at that point, but she gave me a couple seconds to like sprint for my life through these woods. And like as I was running, right, she's behind me. I can see a flashlight, and then I start to see another flashlight, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, okay, what the fuck is this? And like maybe this is her friend. This has to be her fucking friend. This has to be Josh, right? So I'm running for my life. They're following me. Both of them are following me. I don't have my flashlight on. I'm kind of far ahead of them, okay? Like, I can only see their flashlight and barely hear their feet, like, pitter-pattering behind me. So I get to this river, okay? I don't want to cross the river because I know, like, I'm going to get stuck in this river. Like, it's going too fast for me to cross in a timely fashion, so they're not going to get me. So I scope everything out as best as I can in the dark, and right to my left, there's, like, this hollowed-out log. And so I dive in there, like fucking literally like blink into this fucking hollowed out log. Don't know if there's an animal in there. Probably just chilling with the spiders. I don't care. I shit you not. About like maybe 10 seconds after I nosedived into that hollow log, I hear them. I can hear them running right next to the river, like right where I just was, right where I was hiding in the log. So then I hear Maggie say, maybe you should cross the river. We should go across the river. And then the deeper voice, to which I assume was absolutely had to be Josh, he was like, well, okay, maybe you should go check across the river and I'll check on this side of the river and see where she's hiding. She couldn't have gotten very far. I am sweating. I'm holding back tears. I'm trying not to be that girl in the horror movie that like lets out a and then they fucking find her. I'm barely breathing in this hollow log and I don't move for the entire night. And they spent a long time out there looking for me, like in the vicinity, before they started like, you know, going deeper into the woods or wherever it is that they decided to go. I don't know if they gave up looking for me or what, but yeah, I stayed in that log for the whole entire night. Somehow I ended up falling asleep because I remember waking up and seeing like the light of dawn. Like it was barely dawn in the morning. And that was the only time that I sort of felt safe coming out. And even then I was like, what if they like waited? What if they like are sitting out here like hunters, like waiting for me to come? What is going on? Whole time I did have my phone with me, but there's no service out in the woods. There's no service out on the back roads where I live. So I was fucked. I had no way of communicating with anybody, and my fucking phone was like fully charged, dude. That being said, I did have means of calling somebody once I did get to a public road, and I did. I called my brother and he was there. He brings me to the police station and I filed my report or whatever, but nothing ever came of it because, like I said, I'm pretty sure she gave me fake ass names. Like, those were not their names. Of course, why would she be giving me their real names if they were going to be hunting me? It's super scary to think that I literally could have died. I almost died. And in a really scary way. Like, that is one of my biggest fears. Like, I want to die peacefully, okay? I don't want to die like that. I barely made it away unscathed. I don't trust people you meet. I know that we're all like, you can never trust a man and you should more frequently be able to trust women, but you can't even trust the women. Girl, she was like my age. Time, like I was around 21, 22 maybe. Not everybody is a girl's girl and not everybody has good intentions. Like, there are some conniving ass bitches out there. Wonder if they've done that to somebody before, or if I was like gonna be the first one or something like that, and then I got away, and then maybe they did that to somebody else. What the like, is that just like her game? Like, she goes into bars and drinks with people and then invites them out and then goes and hunts them with her friend or boyfriend or husband or whoever the frig that guy was? I have no answers. I only have the story to tell. Moral of the story: don't trust anyone.
Remember how I be telling y'all, if you hear somebody knocking on your door or you hear somebody's voice but no one is home, never open the door? Scary story time. And this story this time is actually not my dad's story, it's my friend's story. She's also Haitian and she wanted to share her story with you guys. So when her family was supposed to come to this country, coming from Haiti, they kept it a secret. And this is actually a common thing because even with me too, when I was coming, it was an absolute secret. Nobody knew but me, my dad, and my grandma, and my uncle. And my uncle was a pastor. Well, is a pastor. But the reason for that is people are jealous and people will do anything to stop you from where you need to be. When they see you prospering and it's not them, I've seen it happen so many times in Haiti. Anyway, so that was the case for her and her family. At the time, it was her and her brother. And when I tell y'all, it was an absolute secret. Nobody knew they were coming to America but the people living in their house. It was literally top secret, which is why it was shocking to her mom when she got a phone call from a church member. Mind y'all, they weren't even that close. Like, that church member, it's not like they were like best friends. It was just somebody they went to church with, and she actually lived very far too. Now, there was this lady that they knew, that everybody knew was a lugau, but it wasn't their business, you feel me? Like, that's the lady's problem. That's her, she do her. Anyway, so the mom gets a phone call from the church member, and the church member tells her mom, I had a dream and I know that you guys are leaving. You guys are going to America, but so-and-so, the lady that's a lugau, does not like that. And she has something planned for y'all so that it does not happen. Mind y'all, they don't even know how the lugau lady found out that they're leaving. But I mean, you know, lugau. The church member tells her from her dream that she was told to tell her mom these instructions. First one is, of course, make sure that nobody else finds out. The second one was there was this uniform they used to wear to church for Saturday services. She tells them to keep that uniform and all of their clothes that they're going to wear until the day that they leave, and make sure that nobody touches those clothes. And the last thing that she told her to do was that the car that was supposed to transport them to the airport, change it. Absolutely change it. So they did all of that. They prayed, they followed directions and stuff like that, and everything worked out well. They got here thinking it was over, but woo, was it far from over.
So story time. I promise you will be entertained, but if you start the story, please stay till the end. So when I was 5 years old, my entire family was killed in a car crash, and I was the sole survivor. When I turned 18, I decided to move out of state for college because I didn't really have any friends or family in the area anyway. I ended up going to Massachusetts. When I got there, I didn't really know anybody. It was a totally new environment. It was unfamiliar. It was kind of scary. But eventually I met a guy at the school. He was really nice. We started dating. Eventually we got a place together, and we lived in that house together for 3 years, and we were happy the whole time. Like, he's very, very sweet, very caring, very loving. You know, I just didn't feel alone for the first time, and it was absolutely wonderful. But around the 3-year mark, I started going through something.
I started not to feel good. So obviously my first guess was pregnancy, so I took a pregnancy test, but that wasn't it. I was having like headaches and stomach aches and feeling nauseated all the time, feeling like extra sleepy, but it wasn't really like life-ruining symptoms. So I just started doing like ginger for the nausea and like soup if I had a tummy ache, you know, a little bit of Excedrin if I had a headache, you know, whatever, you make it work. But the symptoms just kind of kept getting worse. And like sometimes they would be so bad, I'd have a migraine or a nausea to the point that I couldn't even get up out of bed. And my boyfriend's like, babe, I think you should go see a doctor. And I'm like, what is a doctor gonna do? Like, it's not like I can't breathe. It's not like I have chest pain. I just have random unspecified symptoms. Like, what is he gonna do? But he's like, babe, like, you do not feel good. Like, you should go see a doctor. And I'm like, fine, whatever. So he schedules me a doctor's appointment. I go see the doctor, and it's exactly what I thought it was gonna be. The doctor is just like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, cool. So I go back home, and things don't get better, but they start to get worse. Because now I'm not just feeling physically bad, I'm feeling bad mentally. And I don't mean my emotions. I'm not sad or depressed. I'm dealing with confusion. I keep finding things in my house in weird places that they shouldn't be. I open my kitchen drawer to get out cutlery, fork, knife. All my earrings are in there. I go look at my jewelry rack. All my cutlery's in there. Paintings that were hanged on the wall are like turning upside down. And at first I'm just like, okay, you know, whatever. These things are very bizarre, but they're not really frightening. Like, I'm just trying to make this logical or reasonable in any way that I can. But I'm forgetting appointments. My fatigue is increasing. Like, it's just so much happening. And then it starts off slow. Little shadows of, like, in my peripheral vision. Little sounds. And you know, like, you can have those things normally. Like, I think we all have those things occasionally. But they're coming more common and more frequent, and I'm starting to lose, like, time. Like, whole days I cannot remember. So finally I make myself an appointment. I go see a therapist. She does the intake, my assessment, and she's like, okay, you fit the diagnostic criteria for schizophrenia. So that was kind of like hard to hear, but at the same time I was thinking, okay, well, now we know what's wrong with me, I can get some help. And my therapist assured me, like, the medication we have these days can make your symptoms like almost nothing. You can go back to living a normal life. And I'm very grateful. I'm like, okay, good. So I break the news to my boyfriend, which was really scary because he was such a sweet and supportive person. I was just scared of being too much of a burden on him or losing him because he was kind of the only person that I had. But he was super sweet, super supportive. He held me while I cried. He went to go pick up my medication for me after running me a bath. Like, you know, just really taking care of me. So I start taking my medicines, but things do not get better. In fact, they get worse because any kind of visuals or auditory hallucinations I was having are becoming more and more and more defined. And we switched medications like 2 or 3 times, and my therapist is like, oh, sometimes, you know, you gotta switch medications a couple times until you find what works. But things are actively getting worse, and I'm seeing and hearing things in my house, and I know that, like, it feels so real. So at this point, I become convinced that I'm not sick, but my house is haunted. I know that sounds insane, but when you are dealing with so much confusion, bizarre things in your house, bizarre noises, like, you become afraid and you're willing to believe almost like anything that could possibly make things better. So I start getting into like these spiritual people talking about the paranormal, and I start trying to like do different things, you know, like I'm burning sage, I'm doing like, you know, whatever. And finally one day my boyfriend has to go help his dad with something. So he leaves me home alone, and I don't fully know what happened, but I do know that apparently I ended up leaving my house a little bit scantily clad, and apparently I was just kind of running around aimlessly, got picked up by the police, taken to the hospital, and obviously psych, and I wake up in the hospital, and as soon as I wake up, the nurse is all over me, like white on rice. And she tells me just to wait right there a moment. And I don't know how much time has passed. All I know is that I just woke up in the hospital. And I'm in a room by myself, completely isolated. There's nobody else there. And she comes back with a doctor, my therapist, 3 people, a man, a woman, and another girl, and they're all nicely dressed, beautiful people, and they look really familiar to me, but I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure of anything anymore. And somebody who is not in a hospital uniform, and that person is in a police uniform. So now I'm looking at this cop and this room full of people like, what did I do? What did I do? I'm afraid. So I asked them, like, am I in trouble? Am I in trouble? And they're like, no, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. But, you know, I'm thinking they're just saying that to get me to, like, talk about whatever it was that happened. So the cop is, you know, he's asking me all these questions. Then the doctor cuts in and asks questions. And the nurse is writing a bunch of things down. And the therapist is writing a bunch of things down. But their questions are, like, mad normal. They're just like, what's your name? How old are you? Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? Tell us about your family. Da da da. And I'm like, okay, like where are we getting to all this? And I'm just assuming, I've never been in this situation before in like a psych whatever. So I'm just sitting there thinking like, okay, whatever. I don't know their policy. So finally, they end up telling me that they have to give me some news. And my heart is pounding out of my chest at this point, because what news are you about to give me? I guarantee you guys cannot predict what the news was. My name was not the name that I thought I was. In fact, I was not the girl that I thought that I was. Apparently, when I was 17, I was working at the country club that my parents were a part of, and I was a lifeguard. And there was a boy there whose family was not part of the country club, but he had like a small summer job washing dishes or something. And he developed a very unhealthy fixation on me. And he made me very uncomfortable, and he was following me and watching me, and my family was very worried about it. My friends were very worried about it, but I wasn't worried about it because I was just like, you know, whatever, I'm going to be leaving for college soon, and I was an Ohio kid, and I was going to the Ohio State University, and I was very excited about that. The boy, when the summer ended, went to college, and guess where he went to college? Massachusetts. The boyfriend that I had been living with for 3+ years, he actually kidnapped me, took me to Massachusetts, made me shave my head and wear wigs, used a combination of hypnosis tactics, medicines, and illegal substances and abuse to brainwash me into thinking I was a totally different girl. He told me that my family had died in a car crash. That was absolutely not true. My entire family is alive and well, and they were the 3 people that were in the hospital room when I woke up. He was using sedatives and hallucinogens and any illegal substance basically he could get his hands on to make me think that I was going crazy so that my dependence on him would never end. Oh, and I know that you're probably thinking, oh, but didn't he tell you to go to the doctor? Yeah, he did. The doctor he sent me to was his dad, who was previously a doctor but lost his nursing license for basically being inappropriate with patients. And get this, his father was a serial unaliver responsible for the deaths of 8 women in Hyannis. And when I was taken into the hospital, they were finally able to identify me and give me my life back. If you stayed until the end of this video, that was completely fake. That was only for entertainment purposes. None of those things happened to me. I do make original horror content. I am an author and a poet. I hope you guys liked my story. If you stayed for the whole thing, if you would like to see more original horror content on my channel, comment down below. I really hope you guys were entertained by that. Thanks.